It's really exciting to be speaking here at GDC this year. I'm a little nervous because originally I was going to be the panel moderator and my panel didn't show up. I don't know what the deal with that is. But ROBLOX is a scrappy startup, so we're just going to soldier through here. My name is John Shedletsky. I am the creative director at ROBLOX Corporation. I've been with the company for almost all of its 6-year history. The topic of my talk is tracking player engagement and radically improving monetization. I've been to a lot of these sort of virtual goods talks and social gaming talks and all this stuff. And what I thought would be an interesting topic for a GDC talk is really drilling down and examining the relationship between player engagement and monetization, really looking at the hard data. So that's what awaits you in the next 45 minutes or so. I've been asked, because this talk is being recorded, if you guys would not mind turning off your cell phones for the next 45 minutes. And also, I think they handed out survey evaluation things. They'd like you to fill those out, and I think you can win an all-access pass for next year, which is kind of great because it's a great conference and it's super fun to go to. And those passes are expensive. So, like I said, I've been in this industry for 4 or 5 years. I've gone to a lot of these talks. I've seen a lot of pitches for online games and a lot of business plans, and they basically sort of look like this. This is your typical virtual goods monetization strategy. Number one, bam, going to create an online game and sell a lot of virtual goods, and everyone loves that because the profit margins are crazy. Then 2, there's a little bit of magic, like how we're going to do that exactly, how much should the goods cost, what should we sell, subscriptions, virtual transactions, we're going to sell currency directly, what's the deal? And then 3 is like profit. That's your reward for getting the recipe right. And it's kind of widely been acknowledged that number 1 is a difficult engineering task. And that's what a lot of these talks at GDC are about, is how do you build an engaging online game and a platform to do these sort of virtual transactions. I think what is less appreciated is number 2, that question marks. People in the past have sort of thought of this as being an art. You can find the right guy, you get a visionary, you get a virtual economist, you stick him behind a desk, and he'll tell you exactly what you should sell your stuff for. But I think really the trend in the industry has been, no, this is also engineering. This is about hard data. This is about analytics. This is about understanding your customers and what they're doing on your site in excruciating detail and extracting knowledge from that. So yeah, this is a super hot space. Everyone is trying to figure this out. I, at various times, have been in charge of our traffic acquisition efforts at ROBLOX, and I can tell you just over the past 4 years, we're spending 4 times as much to buy new users for our site than we were when we started. And that's just a factor of how many people and how much money is chasing this idea. So before I get too far into this, I'd like to just ask a question of the audience. By simple show of hands, has anyone here heard of ROBLOX before? Wow, that's actually maybe 10%. That's a little bit more than I expected. ROBLOX has been sort of zeroed in on growing word of mouth with our core audience, which is boys aged 7 to 15 in North America. So if this was an 8th grade classroom, maybe more than 10% of you would have raised your hands. I don't know. You guys are industry professionals, so in some sense you're in the know. Next slide. Quick 10-second elevator pitch. What is ROBLOX? ROBLOX is what you would get if YouTube met ZZT. ZZT is the first user-generated content-based game that I played back when I was like this tall. It's Tim Sweeney's first game, Epic Mega Games, 1991. Very simple, primitive graphics. As you can tell, it's ASCII. Players build their own levels and share them on the internet. And this game had incredible sticking power. You can still find ZZT fan sites on the internet today with people uploading new levels. So there's some core idea there that was super, super sticky. So YouTube and ZZT are hanging out, and then Facebook comes along. And it's like, hey, I'm a social network. Let's all be friends. And then Construction Toys comes in and with a keg, and he's like, dude, let's party. So they're all going to get together, and that's sort of ROBLOX. We are an online construction toy building environment for kids with a social network sort of wrapping it all together with user-generated content and the ease of use of YouTube. So I'm going to just very quickly run over some Roblox facts. Why, out of all of you, well, maybe not out of all of you, but just in general, what are my bona fides for talking about how you can monetize your virtual goods? Well, Roblox is one of the largest kids gaming sites on the internet. You can look at ComScore or Alexa or Compete, any of them, in a wide variety of metrics. We're in the top 10. One of the largest MMOs, period, with more than 1 million active users. I think RuneScape, which everyone has heard of, I hear they have 1.3. We launched in 2006, so that's sort of before the whole social gaming tempest. We have a multi-million-dollar virtual economy. So if you take all of the float of all of our virtual cash in our economy right now, it's more than $1 million worth. We do, on our website, more than 500 million page views a month. And probably most interestingly is the overwhelming majority of growth, our traffic in Roblox, is from word of mouth. We've been keeping our marketing budget sort of constant since 2007. Whoops, I skipped a slide. So this is the Roblox Games page. This is just a quick overview. It's sort of like YouTube, only each of these tiles here that you can see, little thumbnails of games that maybe a 12-year-old boy has made. And every day you come to Roblox, you'll see something different here. There's constant stuff being bubbled up. Roblox as a company creates maybe 0.00001% of all the levels that are on Roblox. So there's a website, and then if you click on one of those games, you're going to end up in a 3D environment that looks a lot like this. So again, this level is created by a kid. I'm in here with maybe 20 other people, and they're all chasing me with rocket launchers, and they love it. So just a quick overview, how Roblox makes money. Roblox derives maybe 20% of its revenue from ads. And then we have a hybrid business model between subscriptions and virtual currency purchases. Roblox has some unique challenges that you as maybe developers of traditional MMOs or social games don't really have to think about because our audience skews younger. So this means, there's some things you don't want to show to an 8-year-old kid, especially if their parent is playing Roblox with them. And I think anyone who cares about ad quality, the Ebony ads are sort of the antithesis of everything that you would like to see on your site. If you're trying to create a high brand value site, like maybe Disney or Nicktropolis, I guarantee you're not going to see Ebony ads there. So Roblox has very high ad standards, which hurts our monetization effort because we have to tell a lot of advertisers, no, this isn't going to work out. So that's no like unkid stuff, gross things like weight loss pills, dating sites, gambling. We don't take money from competing online games, which is sort of a shame because the CPM on those are great. And family-friendly ads only, again. There's a moderation infrastructure cost if you're going for kids 8 to 12. Parents really care what they see on the internet. And it only takes one bad experience and you've lost that customer forever. There is no opportunity for impulse purchases in this age group. If you're younger than 13, you do not have a credit card, probably don't have a cell phone, and if you do have one, if your parents have any common sense, SMS payments are disabled. You do not have a PayPal account, so you can't just be, oh man, that's cool, I'm going to buy that right now. And the total damage of all this stuff sort of summed together is our younger players are only generate maybe 70% as much revenue as our older players do, just looking at our data set. The other big challenge we have is that selling to both kids and parents is hard. The problem is not only do kids and parents have different ideas about what the kid should be doing in his spare time and what kind of games they should be playing, they often care about totally opposite things. So as a 12-year-old boy, you want to be the guy with a Glock in the Lincoln Tunnel and you just rode a motorcycle into this car and it blew up and you took all this guy's money and that's really cool. But on the other hand, if you're a parent, you really want your kid to be playing the game on the right. Let's have some fun, ABC learning games. Unfortunately, if you're that 12-year-old boy and you have a friend over and he sees you playing that game, he's going to make fun of you, and rightfully so. You might even get beat up. So this is sort of our sales funnel. This is taking a new user, boy meets Roblox, looks cool, so he plays a bunch of free content, maybe for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months, finally decides, yeah, this is actually a valuable experience, I want to buy this. Goes to his parent to beg for money. Parent comes in. What is this site? Is it safe? Is this something I want my kid doing? They have a lot of concerns. You have to sell them on each of these points. Is this worth paying for? Finally, they purchase. This is a very difficult sales funnel to optimize because I cannot go out and buy ads on a CPA basis where the action happens several weeks later as a purchase. As opposed to my experience when I go to buy a game on, say, Steam. I say, ooh, this game looks cool. As a game developer, I'm obviously wallowing in chicks and cash, so I'll just pay $3 for this. Click. And that's it. It takes like 30 seconds. What a dream. They've built a beautiful machine there. On the other hand, ROBLOX is not all that special. It's also like a lot of other games, and the marketing task is basically the same. First, you make your game as viral as possible, because free traffic is great. Then you calculate your lifetime value. This is how much a customer is worth to you over the lifetime of the customer, and then you make sure that you buy additional users for less than that, unless you're not trying to be profitable. And then you optimize the hell out of your conversion funnels. So taking a tire kicker to a signed-up user who plays a lot, taking that person who plays a lot and trying to get them to buy something, taking someone who bought something and trying to get them to buy another thing. So lifetime value sort of motivates the rest of my talk. So I want to touch on this briefly. I know this has been beaten to death, so let's make it quick here. Lifetime value is the total revenue that you make per player minus the total cost for supporting that player over their lifetime, including traffic acquisition costs. So if you're buying users for $1 each, that you're like starting behind $1. You have to make at least $1 back before you break even. So it's not really rocket science. Everyone wants to increase their lifetime value because it's a competitive market out there. Like I said, traffic purchase has, for ROBLOX at least, gone up 4x since we started. And you would love to have a higher lifetime value because then you can bid more and grow faster, which everyone wants to do. So let's look at what determines lifetime value. It's really two things. It's player engagement. You get them early. You get them for the most money that they will happily give you. You get as many of those users as possible. And this is a very difficult metric to improve. I'm sure if you guys work at virtual world companies, you have a whole group of people in data analytics, and they're trying to optimize everything on your site all the time. And it's a difficult number to move. You also have infrastructure costs. This is what it takes to support a player. This is a bunch of servers and a bunch of people to take care of them. This is a hard metric to improve. Even if Moore's law continues unabided, you're never going to get this down to 0. It's also how long they stay engaged. That's the lifetime part and the value. So this is the only factor that is theoretically unbounded. You can get someone to play your game for 50 years. And you might think that's crazy, but let's think about this for a second. What is the average lifetime value of a Facebook user? People in the US live to be 87. Kids get Facebook accounts when they're 10. So their average lifetime value is probably 77 years, barring any radical increases in medical technology to extend the human lifespan. They can take a very long-term view of monetizing their users, which I think is what they're doing. They can make $1 or $2 every year and have a great business and have an incredibly high valuation. So bingo. So we want to be more like Facebook. Here's some other metrics you might know if you go to a lot of these conferences. Average revenue per user, average revenue per paying user, average time to purchase, average purchase size, average player lifetime, average session length. If you're trying to get at lifetime value, these are all interesting things to know. So averages are a little dangerous, though, because when you start saying average, you kind of have this idea in your head of a normal distribution. You know, there's Joe the plumber in the middle. He is dead average. And most of the people fall around him. So if the average user is giving you $1, maybe there's a couple people giving you $2 or $3, and there's a couple people not giving you very much at all. And the only problem with this sort of conceptual framework is that it is all lies. It's unfortunate. I wish it could be this simple. So what you really want to do is look at your distribution of player engagement. The myth of the average user is dangerous. You do not want to design a game for a user that doesn't exist, because you'll get to market and there'll be no one there to buy. So let's try to get at lifetime value. You might ask, how many days per month does the average person play my game? It's a very reasonable thing to ask. if you can improve this number, you're probably going to make more money. And I could tell you that for Roblox, the answer is 3. There's not a lot of information in this number. To steal from Mark Twain, it's sort of like telling you the answer is 3 is like dissecting a frog. Nothing is learned, and a frog is dead. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time making sure that everyone in the room understands what this chart is saying, because I have a lot of charts that sort of look like this. This chart shows the total number of daily logins in July for Roblox. And what I did is I wrote a little computer program that looked at all the users that logged in and counted how many times each of them logged in July. So on the far left there, you see that there are 500,000 users that logged in once. These guys are tire kickers. They maybe signed up by accident before realizing that this game was not for them. On the far right, you have your fanatics. There are Roblox users that are logging in 29 days a month. That's pretty crazy. That's dedication. And then there's your average user here, the guy that's logging in 3 times a month. You can see that doesn't really describe very much of this data set. Underneath that guy, you got a lot of tire kickers averaged into that number that really are never going to come back to your site, and you're going to make business decisions based on those guys visiting your site once. I don't know. It doesn't sound like a good idea to me. But, if you're a business guy and you're looking at this chart, you say, man, a lot of action is up on that left-hand side. There's a lot of guys who are logging in half a million times in 1 month. That's great. Maybe we should focus development effort on targeting those guys. That's what this chart sort of suggests. Let's get back to that idea. So if we're trying to get a lifetime value, another reasonable question to ask is, what is our average revenue per active user? Average monthly revenue per active user. You only care about the active ones because they're the only ones that cost you anything, going back to lifetime value. And I can tell you for Roblox, actually I'm not allowed to tell you for Roblox what it is, because I already told you how many monthly actives we have, and as happy as we are to get up here and share data, we don't want to open up our books. So I have scaled the remainder of the charts with the assumption that let's just say that this number for a fictional company, very much like Roblox, is 50 cents. I think this is a reasonable number. This is sort of in the neighborhood of what a lot of games are doing. So let's say it's 50 cents. Let's look at the distribution, though, by activity. This is basically engagement. So what you see here is the monthly revenue per user of users from that same month in July, segmented by the number of daily logins per month. So those tire kickers, those guys that were only logging in 1 day a month, not surprisingly, they're on the far left. We're making $0 from them. The y-axis here is dollars in real terms. On the other hand, those fanatics that were playing 29 days a month on the far right-hand side of this graph, we're making a ton of money from those guys. I mean, just look at that. They're worth 30, 40 times the average monthly value per customer there. So this graph is sort of interesting from a business perspective too, because what this graph suggests is, yeah, we should really probably spend our engineering dollars working on the right-hand side of this curve, the really engaged players, because that's where all the money looks like it's coming from. The black bar that I've kind of put along the bottom, that's your 50 cents number. You can see that describes exactly one cohort of users, and that's the number of users that have logged in 6 times a month. So that's not particularly representative of what's going on here. So the myth of the average user is dangerous. And let's just see where this might take you. Our average player plays 3 days a month, and our average player is worth 50 cents. So you might have a game designer who comes to you and says, hey, why don't we design a casual game supporting microtransactions in the dime to $1 range, and this will be great because we're targeting the average user. Congratulations. You've just designed a game that targets less than 5% of all of Roblox's users. You're targeting a micro niche. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. You might come to me and say, hey, John, there's a lot of those casual players. There's like 100 times more of them than those hardcore guys. What if we just take a couple pennies from each of them and make a lot of money? Because a couple pennies times a lot is a lot. Didn't you see Superman 3, John? And I'll tell you, that no, I didn't, because that movie came out the year I was born. I didn't see Superman 3. I saw The Office, where they mentioned Superman 3. That's how anyone knows about the Superman 3 scheme. One note on the Superman 3 scheme, taking a couple pennies from a lot of users, that sounds an awful lot to me like trying to run an totally ad-supported game, which is sort of a business model that's fallen out of favor, I think, for a lot of good reasons over the past couple of years. I don't see a lot of people at this conference, at least, that are trying to make games that are totally ad-supported. They're either doing some sort of subscription service or they're doing microtransactions. Okay, so this is the chart you really want to see, because this is where the real key insights are. This is a chart that shows where does the revenue come from for Roblox, segmented by user login days per month. So on the y-axis here, on the left-hand side, you can see percentages. And you can see that the casual players, the players that are logging on 1, 2, 3, up to 9 days a month, they're each responsible for maybe 2% of all of Roblox's total revenue. So maybe 80% of these players are casual players, and they represent 20% of Roblox's revenue. That's an interesting finding by itself. It means that your MVPs, your most valuable players, are really people that play more than 10 times a month. So you might immediately go out and launch a marketing campaign to get people to log in more. That would be an interesting experiment to try. One thing I would also like to point out is whereas the other two graphs I showed suggested that maybe you should focus engineering effort at either the top of the curve or at the bottom, the totally casual players that are tire kickers, or the super fanatics, this graph really suggests that, casual players, if you get them to play, say, go from playing 3 days a month to 6 days a month, you're not going to see much more revenue. But there's an interesting regime here between 10 days a month and around 26 days a month, where if you can get them to keep logging in and playing more, the revenue return is linear with respect to engagement. So the more engaged you can get them, you'll realize linear revenue growth, which is exciting. And this suggests that, you should really spend your engineering time targeting the happy middle. You're not getting the tons of casual players that are going to play your game for free forever, or very casually, like 15 minutes a month. You're never going to make money from those guys. They're just not engaged enough. And you're definitely going to make money on the super fanatics, but the problem is no one can get enough super fanatics to support their game or their business model because you have all these costs developing the game. So what you really need to do is push the focus in on the happy middle. So let's just pause for a moment and recap. What have we shown so far? I've shown you in that last slide that engagement is directly and linear proportional to revenue, and that just by the definition of lifetime value, player lifetime is proportional to revenue. And so, if you target both of these, if you multiply them together, say we're going to go for engagement and we're going to go for player lifetime, like we're going to get them to play a lot and we're going to do it for a long time, you can see that's proportional to quadratic revenue. So you can get quadratic leverage on your revenue by focusing on this sort of strategy that I call engage and hold. So we're going to get a bunch of users, get them to play for a couple of years, monetize them over time. This is sort of the opposite of a churn and burn social game strategy, where you might say, we're going to go out and get 100 million users. You're going to get them to play our game for 2 weeks. We're going to get as much out of them as we can in that time, and then we're going to try to kick them off to another game for about what we bought them for. So it's sort of like a fire taking all the oxygen out of a room versus planting a tree and you're going to eat the fruit for several years. I don't know. But it's actually even a little bit better than quadratic leverage, because word of mouth scales with both engagement and player lifetime. So if I go home tonight and I play Fable 2, which I'm super into recently, for the next 48 hours, and then I go have a beer with my friends, I'm probably going to tell them about Fable 2. On the other hand, if I'm playing, let's say Farmville, and I'm playing it maybe 15 minutes a day, but I'm going to play it for 2 years, that's sort of just like a constant thread throughout my life, and it might just come up in conversation. The longer I'm playing it, the more likely it is just to pop out. This is otherwise known as viral traffic, and everyone really wants more viral traffic because virality is the only exponent in your business model, unless maybe you're over-leveraged and took a bunch of venture debt, which is unfortunate. But there's a lot of people talking about virality, so I'm going to leave that to the pros. So it's even a little bit better than that, because we've done some studies at ROBLOX, and I'm going to back these hand-wavy assertions up with hard data in the next slide, that word-of-mouth traffic is easier to engage and also monetizes better than paid traffic does. This is sort of irregardless of where you're getting your paid users from. And what this is really an effect of the fact that someone who is coming to your website direct is a qualified lead, basically. They've either read about you in a game review somewhere, they have heard about you on the playground, they have been over to a friend's house, the friend was playing the game, the friend gave them a personal guided tour of the game, and then set them up with some virtual loot to get them started. Like, what a great introduction. So this is sort of represents, you take all that and average, what is that worth? Well, I'll tell you exactly what it is worth. So this chart's got a lot going on, just like all my other charts. What you're seeing here is that the solid lines are direct traffic. The red line is engagement. How many monthly logons we get on average from a direct lead. So you can see just underneath of it, the dotted line, the orange dotted line is engagement from paid traffic. So you can see even right out of the gate, until they've been playing for about a year, the direct traffic engages a little bit better, maybe 10% better. And you can see that the revenue over time, month by month, and this is 2 years of data here, the revenue that we make from that group of users that all joined at the same time is pretty much flat over time, which is great, and is almost always better than the revenue we're reaping from our CPC or paid traffic. So that's maybe an unexpected result. You'd kind of think that maybe if you are buying ads on a highly targeted, like, games network site, that you would get gamers and maybe they would buy your game. That seems reasonable to me. Okay, so I talked a little bit about tracking engagement, but the other half of my talk promised something about radically improving monetization, and really that's the sexier one of the two, and is probably why everyone is here. So if you don't remember anything else about my talk, take these 3 points back to the office and tell them to your boss. You can even claim that they're your ideas. Shoot me an email in 6 months and let me know how it went. And the 3 things that I really suggest you guys focus on is, first of all, let people who want to give you more money do it. There are people that love your product that are fanatics who are playing 29 days a month, and they're getting a lot of utility from your game, economically speaking. So spending an extra couple of bucks is really nothing to them. Continue through with that thought is that you really have to have pricing tiers here. So for our first year or two, ROBLOX only sold $6 a month subscriptions, and this was a huge mistake. And the reason why this is a huge mistake is you sell subscriptions. There's 2 kinds of people in this world. There are people that are going to pay you, that will never pay you that $6 a month because they don't want to, which is fine. You might get a little bit more if you drop your price point. You can move it around. You can optimize that. But there's some people that just aren't going to pay you. And whatever price point you pick, $6 or otherwise, everyone else who wouldn't pay you, they're going to pay you, they'd be willing to pay you more. Like, the chance that you picked the exact right price point that everyone in your audience was thinking about paying is 0. There's no such thing. So really what you're doing is capping your upside by offering only subscriptions. So you want to make sure that you sell at least one other thing with bottomless demand. And the most common answer is direct virtual currency sales. You can sell that in any denomination. So if someone wants to give you $10,000 a month, they can. And this sounds crazy, but I've been to a lot of these lectures, like I've said before, and the Project Entropia guys, they have a couple of whales that are paying them $10,000 a month or something crazy, like multiple thousands. The Puzzle Pirate guy, Daniel James, he has a couple of users like that too. These people do exist. You can examine their motivations in a different talk, but you want to make sure that the dude that's going to pay you a couple $1,000s a month, you're not just getting $6 from, because that's just stupid. I'm going to back this up with some hard data. So if you do this right, this is another one of these revenue cohort charts. Only now we're taking a longer-term view. We're looking at how many people logged in the past 3 months, counting how many times that was and putting them in a bucket. So And then we're like looking at that each of those buckets of users, and we're counting up how much money we made from them. So the y-axis is revenue in absolute terms. And you can see we make most of our money per user from the people that log in 87 times in the past 90 days. But what is interesting here is how predictive the engagement is of per cohort revenue. So let's just pick a data point here. Let's pick these people that logged in 71 times in the last 90 days. How much more valuable do you think the people that log in 72 times over the 90 days are? That's like less than 2% more activity. That's nothing. But there's actually a pretty big jump here. This is maybe a couple of bucks. So that's crazy. I think it's crazy. But let's get back to this point about capping your upside with subscriptions. If subscriptions are the only thing you sell, this is what you get. $6 a month from each of these users every month. So no matter how many times they're logging in the first month, days 1 through 29, you're just going to get $6 from the ones that are paying you. So you left a little bit on the table. Next month, we got to $12 because they've been with us now for 2 months. And the third month, we got $18 because they've been with us for 3 months. So you're just making the money under those black lines. Everything above the black lines, you left on the table because you have a fixed pricing scheme. That's not a great idea. So that's my number one takeaway point, variable pricing. Okay, number 0 takeaway point is improving player engagement. I've convinced you guys maybe that this is something that we want to look at, and who wouldn't want higher player engagement? So how do we do that? I have some suggestions. At ROBLOX, we kind of have this in our corporate DNA, our viral loop. A lot of people talk about viral loops. Our viral loop is quality, very high quality play experience. We want to create a crafted experience, something that the user's playing and it just feels like someone spent a lot of time on this. So that's one way to get your people to play games longer, make a good game. It's really not rocket science. Some other mechanics, you can have easy to learn, hard to master gameplay. So instead of a learning curve that just looks like a cliff, you kind of ramp them up slowly. Like, oh, here's how you move around. Here's a car. Now we're going to learn how to jet ski. Now you've got a jet ski that shoots flaming chainsaws and you're jumping through these hoops. Like, you can take this a lot of... Maybe we won't take it any farther than that. I'm afraid where that's going to go. You can have a lot of replayability. So I mentioned I was playing Fable 2. Fable 2 you can choose to be either good or evil, so you can play it at least twice. That's one way to double the number of hours it takes to beat your game for those completists. You can keep the game fresh by making it moddable. So Counter-Strike, really any first-person shooter does this. The maps that come on the disc in the box, there are maybe 12. The number of maps that exist on the internet, hundreds of thousands. So there's just this groundswell of free content that users and hardcore players will make for you if you let them, if you make your game customizable. There's the infinite treadmill, kind of impossible to win game mechanic. This is what World of Warcraft does. You could play World of Warcraft for 10 years, and you will never, I guarantee, see a screen that says, "Congratulations, you won World of Warcraft. You can stop paying your subscription now." I just don't think that's going to get past the boardroom. So you can create this sort of mechanic where you're constantly playing. It's sort of like playing a slot machine. You're getting treasure. Sometimes you find slightly better treasure. You're leveling up your guy. You can never quite win. So that's an idea. You could also take a note from the fashion world and create a game around the cult of the new. So this would be sort of like World of Warcraft if the object of the game changed every couple of weeks. That's an interesting idea. So I want to ask you, there's one game that I think really embodies a lot of this stuff. High quality play experience, easy to learn, hard to master gameplay, replayability, modability, all this stuff. And I want to ask the audience a question. Let's see who gets this one. What do you get if you Google for one more turn? It doesn't even have to be in quotes. You can just Google for it. Anyone know? What's the top? Yes. So this is sort of the great triumph of Sid Meier as a game designer. If you Google for one more turn, which is really not gamer language in any sense, you get Civilization. Civilization has this great You even get it if you do the image search. About 20% of them are Civilization screenshots. Civilization has this great one more turn mechanic, like, oh man, I know I got that board meeting tomorrow morning at 8. It's 2 in the morning right now. Am I gonna, 1, go to bed, or 2, let the Romans crush my civilization? No, I have to play one more turn. He does it so well. It's so engaging. And once you beat it, you just play it again. The game is like developing a story. And once you've played it again enough times to be bored, you go online and everyone's got all these mods for it. You can just never really be done with this game if that is your thing. Until the sequel comes out, which is great. They engage you until the sequel comes out. That's a long engagement time. So, all games are different. I'm not going to get up here and tell you guys, like, you do these 5 things, your game will be more engaging. Make sure you have this, this, and this. No, I think the idea here is sort of, there's a bunch of things you can do. I suggest you pick 3 or 4 and really polish them and hit those. I don't think anyone should try to, like, be everything. And this is how ROBLOX does it. I'm just going to share with you. We do it through making our game very customizable. We have user-generated content. Players build the game. This is sort of our easy-to-learn, hard-to-master mechanic. Players have ownership of the stuff that they built, which is an interesting psychological phenomenon that I'll get to. The game is continually fresh because we have all this user-generated content. We have the infinite treadmill, but it's a little bit different than the WoW model, and we're able to leverage defunct accounts. Okay, so customization for everyone. We sort of have this idea in our head that if you customize something, you identify with it more, you're a little bit more invested. I think, I don't know if any of you guys have signed up ever for Gaia Online. You customize your character in the sign-up panel. Like, I think a lot of people have this idea that, once they've created a character, we got them. So we think maybe 100% of all Roblox players can customize their character. And we think we can walk you up this pyramid where, yeah, that's kind of fun, that's cool. Well, maybe 70% of people will build something using prefabulated pieces. So like we have a castle wall section, and here's a corner section, and here's a drawbridge. And maybe if you're doing that, that experience kind of gives you this sense of power. Like, yeah, I'm kind of in charge of this game world, I'm modifying it. But what if I want to build something from scratch? Like, it's sort of each step in the pyramid motivates the next one. And at the top of the pyramid, we only think maybe 1 in 1,000 players will ever get to the point where they're either writing Lua code to script our game environment, or they're going to make a conscious choice like, I'm going to design a game. It's not just going to be a bunch of crazy stuff happening in a level that I'm sharing with my friends. It's going to be a balanced game experience that I'm going to actively market to other players. So, building tools. So we created a system that lets 12-year-olds basically build their own online game, which is an interesting engineering problem. I wouldn't say we have it quite right, but we're constantly experimenting with this. So it's easy to learn. So we've created this level where here's a house I built in 5 minutes. You basically have 4 by 4 by 4 blocks, and you're stamping them down. Like here I'm stamping down some spikes. I built a house. I'm going to create a little fence. I'm in here with some of the users. I built this in 5 minutes. It's not a big investment of time. I could just be screwing around here. So it's easy to get people into that experience. This is sort of how far you can take it. This is a Gothic cathedral floating on a continent in the clouds that a user in, I think, Norway built. And this probably represents maybe, at least 100 hours of work. The kind of detail work, fidgeting with each of those things. This guy is super engaged in our product. He has played for at least 100 hours because that's how long it took him to build this thing. And then the people that are really have big ideas for games that they like to make on Roblox eventually decide that they need total control over the game. They need to get in there and start writing code. So Roblox lets users modify the environment, the physics, basically anything with an embedded scripting language. And maybe only 1 in 1,000 people get this far. But that's fine, because if you have 1 million active users and 1 in 1,000 people are going to be game designers for you and work for free, and have a good time doing it, by the way, I'm going to have 1,000 games at the end of the day, which is more than enough games for kids to play before the next 1,000 show up. So you can have a perpetually fresh fount of games. One thing we've discovered is that ownership in Roblox is a viral loop. If anyone has kids, you've maybe seen this. Your kid has spent 10 hours building a block castle or a fort in the backyard. The first thing he does when it's done is runs to get his mom, like, hey, Mom, you got to see this. I built this thing. So what I did is I went to Google. I typed in, check out my cool Roblox thing. It took me to this YouTube video as the first hit. So some kid made this YouTube video of his Star Destroyer, and it's got 8,000 views. So there's some viral stuff happening here. Not sure how many conversions this resulted in. Probably more than one. Okay, so user-generated content keeps it fresh. If you are a AAA game studio and you have a huge budget, you probably have a warehouse somewhere full of level designers and artists constantly cranking out content, because you can fit a lot of content on a Blu-ray disc, right? And especially if you have an MMO, you need a lot of content to keep those people playing. Roblox doesn't do that. We have a million kids building stuff, and it's sort of like a million monkeys and a million typewriters. Occasionally, a monkey comes up with, like, Hamlet, and it's brilliant, and everyone loves it. But the rest of them are really just flinging feces at each other. So we have this interesting sort of engineering problem of wading through the pile and bringing the gems up to the top. And an interesting experiment that I like to do on Roblox is every morning when I get into work, I check out our games page, and I maybe recognize 10% of the games there. The other 90% are totally new. So this is sort of a game for the ADD generation. You never have to play the same game twice. That's been successful for us. So the infinite treadmill, traditionally associated with games like World of Warcraft, Diablo 2, I played that for a long time. In Roblox, players are on a treadmill, but what they're after is not loot. It is social status. They want recognition for the stuff that they have built. I think this is a sort of primal human need that not a lot of games tap into. People want recognition for the things they spent hundreds of hours working on. So social status is sort of, there's various strata in the Roblox social network. You can be globally famous. Like, everyone knows the guy that made this game. 10 million people played it. But there's also sort of niche audiences inside of Roblox that self-aggregate. So on Roblox, one of the most popular genres is there's a lot of kids that love World War II and World War II themed games. So there's a lot of World War II armies on Roblox that users have created. They're kind of like Facebook groups. Users have built their own ranks, so you can join their army as a private. If you beat the right, like, missions, quote unquote, that are also user developed, you can rank up inside of the group. Everyone knows in that community who the generals of the biggest armies are. So that's interesting. And there's player created achievements because everyone does it. I don't know. I think achievements are kind of done. But an interesting question is, just to think about in the back of your mind, is how do you win YouTube? You might ask, you might say, John, that doesn't make any sense. YouTube's not a game. But I think maybe there's something in there, because even if you have a YouTube video with 100 million views, have you won YouTube? Like, you've had unparalleled success in the game of YouTube, but you haven't won. So there's sort of this infinite YouTube treadmill as well, like the people that are fanatically publishing YouTube videos. So here's an interesting trick. How do you monetize a user who quit your game 2 years ago? And with user-generated content, you can do this. So just a little anecdote. We had a user, Mike D. He's not a typical user. He's a famous user. So this is not the average case. He left Roblox a long time ago. And the games that he's built have since gotten 3 million plays. And depending how you figure it out, and you can do that a lot of ways, a play may be worth between a penny to a nickel. An unimaginative way of trying to figure out what a play is worth is like just deciding, hey, let's put a video pre-roll on in front of every gameplay, and those have CPMs of maybe $15, so that gets you to like a cent and a half, I guess. That's grosser than what we do, but you can kind of like get some idea in your head of what that level of engagement is worth, because someone needs to make these games on Roblox. Okay, so we've created this kind of environment where players are highly engaged. I'm just going to throw some hard numbers out there. We have 4 million uniques doing 20-minute sessions on the website. That includes people who bounce out in like a tenth of a second because they meant to click on a different button, I guess. So for every one of those, there's like people doing 40-minute sessions. We have 1 million actives doing 4 to 5 hours a week. This includes in-game 3D time. That's sort of the equivalent of 8 hit children's Saturday morning cartoons, I guess. So that's a pretty large audience, or amount of kid engagement time. For the kids vertical, this is sort of the engagement high watermark. I'm not aware of anyone who's doing significantly better than this. Deep sessions like these are hard to monetize with ads because no advertiser is going to pay you for the 200th impression in a session. But it's great for sales, as we saw. And if you put this all together, you get kind of something unexpected, like a duck falling on a castle. And I have to apologize for this chart because Jackson Pollock runs our data visualization group. What this is basically showing is revenue data over the first 2 years where we sold any virtual goods. What we're doing is every week we take all those users that joined that week, and for every week going forward, we're looking at how much money we're making from them in real terms, so absolute terms. You can see what's happening if I remove most of these lines. So I'm only going to show 6 lines every 21st week. And what you'll see is that the users in the blue line that maybe started playing 2 years ago, or they did start playing 2 years ago, we're making as much from them last week as a whole, as a group of users, as we did when they first joined. And this pattern holds true for that red line where we got a bunch of users and they kept paying us money, and we're making the same amount from them as a group as we did the first. In some sense, we're making more than them. The purple cohort's my favorite. We're making twice as much money from them as we did the week they started. So what is this? What are we looking at? What would you expect to see? What you'd expect to see is, you get a bunch of users, you have crazy attrition. Like after a year, maybe only 5% of that group of users is still playing. And that's true. We see that too. But we are monetizing the remainder 20 times more effectively, so we see the same bottom line. I thought this was really interesting. One thing that it suggests is if we just kept pace with the industry and kept doing what we were doing, whatever was necessary to keep up, we could just keep layering on these cohorts over time. Like the first one's lived for 2 years, shows no sign of slowing down. So maybe if we did what we've been doing for the next 2 years, we'd have, you're kind of just like building this multi-layer cake of people giving you money, which is kind of fun. I wanted to leave some time for questions and answers because I've made a lot of outrageous claims. I'm sure someone wants to call me on it. If you want to share war stories or data, I have my contact info. And also, my boss is here, so I have to say that ROBLOX is hiring, and we'd love to have you join our team. Yes. Oh, there's microphones to the left and the right, although if you don't feel like getting up, I'll just repeat your question so everyone hears it.
Are your slides available online?
They're going to be in the GDC vault, and I can make them available if you want to email me, or maybe we'll put them up somewhere. We haven't really decided. Yes?
It seems that your revenue per player is going up over time. Can you share specifically what you've gone through to do that?
Yeah. So there's actually an interesting point I meant to make that I sort of skimmed over, and let's talk about it. In this slide, yeah, I don't know how to make it full screen. Oh, really? Oh, okay. This is my first rodeo. Anyways, so in 2008, I mentioned all we did was fix subscriptions at $6 each. I came to GDC, and I was at the EVE Online guys. They give a great talk about data mining, and they have something called Operation Unholy Rage. And I was sitting there, and I was like, this is great. And I was looking around, and I'm like, wow, most of these guys are 35. I bet they all play this game and have kids. And they're all used to paying $15 a month for online games. So if we're selling an online game for less than that, it's almost like we're not like a real game. Like buying a bottle of wine. Like you would never bring a $5 bottle of wine to someone else's like dinner. So like would you buy a $6 subscription for your kid when there was a $15 one? Most people decided they'd rather spend more. Because your kid's sitting right there. It's like, how much do you love me, Mom? So one thing we found that really helped us monetize was the variable pricing tiers. So we now sell 3 levels of subscriptions at different prices. And we sell direct virtual currency sales. That was huge when we did that. like the first month was crazy. So highly recommend selling one thing that you can sink infinite money with if someone wants to give it to you. If you have a large audience, someone will. The other point I wanted to make is, so I told you we spend a lot of time trying to improve our monetization. In 2008, this was a central focus for our company. You can see it's much easier to improve monetization. It's easier to push the ball forward for the users that are already super highly engaged. So if you're looking at this slide, the purple bars are 2008 data. So people that joined in July 2008, how often did they log in? How much money did we make from them in real terms? And you can see our curve does not, it looks linear. It doesn't look quadratic in that one. That's sort of a function of the fixed pricing. But by 2010, we're maybe making 7 times as much as a group from those people with that level of engagement. Whereas the casual players, say maybe around 10, we've only doubled. So it is much, much easier to improve your monetization efforts at the top, the highest levels of engagement, than it is at the bottom. I guess the other way to look at that is to say, if you could take everybody and shift them so that they were all more engaged, it would be easier to improve monetization there too. So there's a couple of ways of attacking that. Thank you. Next question.
Yes, hi. My name is Gary. I'm from PopCap Shanghai. You had a slide earlier that said something about leveraging defunct users to increase engagement. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
Thanks.
So I was talking about the user that made, so it's sort of like using Yelp, right? If I use Yelp for a year and I leave 50 reviews, yeah, this is slide, Shift F5, huh? Slide's not super important. If I join Yelp and I leave 50 reviews and then I quit and I never come back, they still have my content. It will still come up in Google searches. They can put ads on it. So in a sense, they're monetizing the stuff I've created, even though I'm no longer actively playing. So it's sort of like a lot of games, if you have even a super successful player, if he quits your game, he leaves an echo. Whereas if he can leave relics, then other people can go explore that and interact with it. Whereas if he's only leaving echoes, then people might say to themselves once in a while, like, oh, wouldn't it be great if this guy came back? But you can't monetize that. Any other questions?
Hi.
Hi.
What do you think about the idea of selling temporary items versus permanent items?
Yeah. So selling consumable items. So at ROBLOX, we have sort of fallen into this trap of selling durable goods, which is not super great. Like what you would like to do is sort of the razor model, where you sell someone a razor and then you sell them blades for the rest of their lives. And we'd like to move more in that direction. There's some games, you might want to talk to Daniel James for Puzzle Pirates, because they had a similar situation where they had only durable goods, and then they decided one day to make them all non-durable. And I think the bottom line was a lot of people got angry at them for doing that. It's like a huge community outrage. But at the end of the day, they were making 2 or 3 times as much money. Don't quote me on that exact figure. You can go find him. But consumable items, good idea. Bottomless demand for consumable items. Durable stuff starts to pile up. There's ways you can get around that. You can introduce a crafting system. So for Diablo 2, they had a lot of duping bugs. This is one item that started to pile up, the Stone of Jordan. So Blizzard created a crafting recipe that you put 30 of these in a box, you push a button, you get one new thing, and that just sucked them all out. So durable doesn't mean it's around forever, really, if you have a crafting system in your game. Any other questions? You can always email me later. Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming out. Oh, got one more.
Yeah. I was just curious, how did you go about measuring your word-of-mouth traffic?
So if you're buying a lot of traffic, what you do is you send them to a URL with a query string so you can tell what source they're coming from. And so if every paid visitor that you're purchasing has a string, all the guys that don't have strings are direct traffic. And it's very difficult to separate out. You can separate out the organic Google searches. And once you've done that, everything that's left is viral. word of mouth is sort of a very large category. It doesn't have to literally mean that I told you to go to this website. I could have just written a review about it, and you could have read it, and that would be word of mouth.